Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Awesome. So today we're cracking open Word Crack.
Ooh. Joe Omnibus.
Yeah, it's his collection of poems and plays. And
I love Omnibus.
He's really something else.
Absolutely.
Not your typical poetry, right?
No. You think you're getting into some nice nature poems and then bam.
Travel.
Time travel, aliens, Baba Yaga.
Baba Yaga. It's like, what?
Right? And it all works.
It really does. But where do we even start with this guy?
Well, Omnibus is all about building this crazy, huge universe.
Yeah, I noticed that just flipping through.
You've got Earth, obviously.
Of course, got to have Earth.
But then he throws in Mars, the moon.
So those.
Then the Ceres station, Alpha Centauri, even Rigel Kentaurus.
And it's not just and the spaceship landed on Rigel Kentaurus. He actually does something with these places.
Right. Each location adds to the story, to the themes. It's like he's saying human nature is going to play out no matter where you are.
Whether you're on Mars or stuck in a Denny's parking lot.
Exactly. And speaking of human nature, we got to talk about the characters.
Okay, yes. Marco Polo, as a time-traveling hip-hop MC, where did that even come from?
Honestly, only Omnibus could pull that off. But think about it. Marco Polo, this historical figure, thrown into these futuristic settings.
It messes with your head.
Totally. What's real? What's progress? Even what's identity? Omnibus makes you question everything.
It's like he's saying we might have spaceships and all that, but deep down we're still just humans dealing with the same old stuff.
Yep. And one of the biggest stuff Omnibus tackles is time travel. But here's the thing. It's more than just a cool plot device for him.
Yeah, he uses it to dig into some deep stuff.
Big time. Consequences, choice, how history might just keep repeating itself. You see it especially in the 7M, right?
Oh, where Joey Omnibus is hopping through time.
Yeah, and it leads to all this chaos he didn't intend.
Like one of his trips gets Abraham Lincoln killed.
Heavy stuff, right? But that's Omnibus. Makes you, the reader, face these paradoxes head on.
Makes you think, what if I messed with the past?
Exactly. Do we have free will? Is fate set? Huge questions. And is it even right to mess with time, even if you think you're doing good?
Makes you think, for sure. I bet some listeners are having their minds blown right now.
Probably. Omnibus wants you involved. You're not just reading, you're wrestling with these ideas.
Which is awesome. And he makes it so engaging with his writing style. It's like science fiction meet folklore, sprinkled with hip-hop slang.
Right. It's this crazy, unique blend. You're like, is this Shakespeare or a rap battle?
Both. But it works because Omnibus is a master of language.
Absolutely. Rhythm, rhyme, wordplay, he uses it all to hook you in.
I love that line from Shapes, where he's talking about clouds. It's so simple, but it sticks with you.
Shapes of clouds in the sky, other shapes before my eyes.
See? It's beautiful.
It is. And that's Omnibus. He can get deep and philosophical, but still make it catchy, almost musical.
Speaking of musical, how about that line from the Marco Polo epic poem? The one that's like, I'm Marco Polo, breath deep, dance slow. Yeah. He gets stuck in your head. But it's also saying something about Marco's journey, his philosophy.
Exactly. Simple words, profound meaning. That's Omnibus's magic.
It's true. But with all the time travel, the crazy locations, the weird characters, he never forgets the human element.
Nope. At its core, his work is about connection, resilience, that search for meaning we all go through.
And even with all the wild stuff going on, his characters still feel so real, so relatable.
Like when Joey Omnibus ends up stranded in Arizona.
I was going to say, dumped out of a fruit truck. Not exactly glamorous.
But even then, Joey finds ways to cope. Fixing cars, reading about Qigong, sending postcards to his mom saying, please do not panic.
It's such a small detail, but it says so much about him.
Resourceful, resilient, and even when he's far from home, still connected to his family.
It's a reminder that even in the craziest situations, there's always that human element shining through.
And those little moments, they're what make Omnibus's work so powerful.
Absolutely. Makes you think, makes you feel, makes you want to keep turning the page to see what happens next.
And it's not just, warm fuzzies and finding your inner strength. Omnibus gets into some pretty heavy stuff, too.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Especially with the time travel, right? The ethics of it all.
Exactly. Do we even have the right to mess with the past, even if we think it's for the best?
And then there's all the tech in his stories, right? Makes you wonder about how that shapes society, how it could go wrong.
Oh, for sure. Omnibus isn't afraid to explore those dark sides. But what I appreciate is he doesn't hit you over the head with an agenda.
Right. It's not like, here's the answer, you must believe this.
He lays out all the different sides, the arguments, and then it's like he's saying, okay, you decide what you think.
It's refreshing. In a world where everyone's shouting their opinions, Omnibus is like, here's some food for thought, now go chew on it.
Exactly. It's like he trusts his readers to think for themselves, to have those tough conversations.
Which is honestly what good art should do. Make you think, challenge your assumptions.
Totally. And Omnibus does that, but he never loses that sense of humor.
Oh, yeah. Even when things get dark, there's always that little wink. Like, he's in on the joke.
He's got that light touch, that playfulness, even when exploring these, like, huge, potentially scary themes.
It's a tough balance to strike. Be serious, but not take yourself too seriously.
And Omnibus nails it. He makes you laugh, he makes you think, he makes you look at the world differently.
He does. So, okay, we've talked big picture stuff, but I want to get into specifics. Like, what are some moments from Word Crack that really stuck with you?
Oh, man, so many. Okay, that scene where Joey ends up in Arizona.
After the fruit truck. Classic.
Yeah, it could have been just, like, sad and dramatic. But Omnibus makes it funny, too. Heartwarming, even.
Yeah.
Joey fixing cars, reading about Qigong.
Sending those postcards to his mom. Please do not panic.
It's those little things that make his characters so relatable, so human.
You're like, okay, even if I got dumped out of a fruit truck, I'd probably do the same thing.
Right. And another one that always gets me is that scene in The Seventh at Ford's Theater.
When Joey travels back to save Lincoln.
Yeah. Pure action, you're on the edge of your seat, but then it also gets into these big questions like, what does it mean to be a hero?
And what happens when you mess with history, even with good intentions?
Exactly. Yeah. That idea of unintended consequences is something we can all relate to, right?
For sure. We all make choices, big and small, and sometimes those choices have ripple effects we never could have predicted.
And sometimes those consequences are tragic. Like, remember what happens to Baba Yaga in The Seventh and Teen 2?
Oh, man. When the robot assassin kills her. Shocking. You just don't expect it.
It's brutal. And it really drives home the point that even in a world with magic and time travel, life is fragile.
Loss is real. And it just adds another layer of depth to the story. You realize the stakes are HIGH.
For sure. And it all leads up to that final showdown, right? Joey versus the robot assassin. This battle across time, the fate of humanity hanging in the balance.
What a climax. I was like holding my breath the whole time.
All that tension building throughout the story, and then bam, it all explodes. It's more than just a fight. It's about like hope versus despair, creativity versus destruction.
And the ending, it's left open, which I think is brilliant. It makes you, the reader, think about what happens next.
For the characters, for the universe. It's like Omnibus is saying, here's where I leave you, now go think about it.
It's perfect for a work that's all about challenging assumptions, pushing you to see things in new ways. Omnibus doesn't give you all the answers, but he gives you more than enough to think about long after you've finished reading. It's wild, right? How Omnibus makes storytelling feel like it's not just entertainment, it's like essential to being human.
Yeah, it's like breathing for his characters. They use stories to like figure out their lives, connect with each other.
Build their own worlds almost.
Totally. Think about Marco Polo. He's not just, you know, some guy in a history book. He's this time-traveling storyteller sharing his experiences across like centuries.
A bard from the future, but like with a spaceship instead of a lute.
Exactly. And he's using those stories to entertain, yeah, but also to teach, to bridge these gaps between cultures. You're right there with him, traveling through time, seeing the world through his eyes.
It was like a history lesson, but way cooler and more philosophical.
Oh, for sure. Omnibus isn't just giving you facts. He's making you think about the bigger picture. Like, what does it mean to travel? What does it mean to experience different cultures?
But it's not just these big epic narratives, right? Even when Joey's stuck in Arizona, he's still connecting with people through stories, jokes, little anecdotes, memories of Dorby.
It shows that storytelling is like built into us. We all do it, whether we realize it or not.
To make sense of things, to share our view of the world.
To bond with others, to say, hey, this is me, this is what I've been through.
And those stories, even the small ones, they matter. They can have this ripple effect, touching people in ways we might never know.
It's powerful stuff. Makes you realize the weight of your own words, your own experiences. What stories are you carrying?
Exactly. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Word Crack, I think it's a good time to reflect on that, right?
Yeah.
What stories are we telling ourselves and each other? What stories are shaping our world?
Omnibus gives us the tools, you know, He shows us the power of imagination, the importance of connection, all the potential, good ain't bad, that's inside each of us. Now it's our turn to take those lessons and run with them. Create our own many narratives.
He sparks the fire, and we get to keep it burning.
That's a great way to put it. Omnibus's work reminds us that even with all the technology, the time travel, the craziest sci-fi stuff, the most important journeys are internal. They're about figuring out who we are, what we believe.
And then sharing those discoveries with the world through our own words, our own stories.
What stories will you choose to tell? And how will they shape the world around you? That's something for all of us to think about.
A perfect note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the amazing world of Joe Omnibus. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep telling your stories.